This video is for business leaders who want an effective, simple, and continuous improvement process for their business. First of all, I've put it in a specific order, so I would encourage you to keep it in that order. And even if you decide you'd like to change it, that first try it in the order it's designed, because I think it's the best order. And it will give you a baseline upon which to judge if changing the order gives you better results. And if you get better results, please let me know. So though I think it's unlikely that a different order will work, feel free to sort of be meta and apply this process to this process to see that for yourself, or to find that I am completely wrong because it's empirical. The results speak for themselves. If you find a better order, please let me know. I would love to know under which conditions, or if this new order is universally better. That would be wonderful, because I am and I live what I teach. I'm continuously increasing my own process as I go, just as a matter of habit. I don't do it as a separate activity. It is just integrated into everything I do. So my goal really is continuous empirical improvement of everything. So in this process, it's very simple. The first part is learn. That is, ideally, learning should be something you're doing all the time anyway. And if you are, great. You just need to direct your learning into the thing that you'd like to improve, whether that's a process, a product, or anything else. However, if you haven't been learning, this is the first and absolutely necessary step, is to learn. And by learn, obviously, I mean specifically around and related to that which you want to improve. I want to be very clear. This doesn't mean go learn improvement processes, continuous Kaizen, Six Sigma, all that. You may do that, but this is specifically turning your attention to gathering knowledge about the specific thing that you are trying to solve, the specific thing you are trying to improve, not a process to learn a process to improve something, which gets a little concerning in my sense, or my belief. So if you're not started yet, start learning about what you want to improve immediately. Obviously, focus on learning things that are normally called, there's three things that I recommend you learn. And that is, first of all, something called best practices. And Adam Grant has definitively convinced me that best practices is not the best term. It should be better practices. And if you want to know why, read his book, Think Again. So the goal here is really to first of all, start with those best practices, or those better practices, the things that are widely known that people are using, and just sort of common knowledge that will help you do your process better educated about whatever it is you're trying to improve. The second thing is known weaknesses and limitations, that when you look at whatever you're looking at, that people say, well, this material isn't great because of this. Here's the pros, here's the cons. Weight's an issue, cost's an issue. So learn about the weaknesses and the limitations as the second part. So you do your best practices or your better practices as a general group of knowledge, then go on to the known weaknesses and limitations of that product, that material, that process, and then go on to the unknowns, whether that's this needs more data, or if you find during those first two parts of this learn phase that you have questions, write them down as you go. I would encourage you to write them down immediately. At least I think of them immediately, but I forget them just as fast. So write down those questions, because then that can be part of your research into the unknowns, where maybe you could get the highest leverage innovation or highest leverage solution and improvement because nobody's doing it yet. So the goal is to identify opportunities to improve as quickly as possible, but yet you do the learning phase because you want to avoid duplicating effort and research and knowledge that's already out there. That would be a foolish waste of time to reinvent the wheel unnecessarily. where at the same time that's balanced off by why you're doing the unknown component, because if you're following everybody else, then nothing new can exist. So if you want to be an innovator, you need to examine the unknown, those limits, those weaknesses, to identify better opportunities to improve something. The next stage is to validate. And I chose this rather than check, because check could just be see that something exists or that something is being done. To validate is to look at the information that you've gathered, the knowledge you've gathered in the first phase, and make sure it's true, or at least has strong evidence of being true. Now, you can start with consensus. That is what most people know to be true or believe to be true, or the best process, the best material, the best design, whatever it happens to be, because wide agreement suggests but doesn't prove validity. Let me give you an example. Our attention spans are 8 seconds long. It's entirely untrue, but it is widely believed. So there's a perfect example of consensus belief with no validity whatsoever. So the next one is test or validate. But the way you do this, the actual word for this is simply do. Take what you've learned in the previous phases now, and in the validation phase, in the learning phase and the validation phase, now apply it and execute it in the real world, where you can not only get the results you want, the improvement you want, but empirical data, real world data from applying what you've done so far to get more information to find how it's working, not only to measure that performance, but also to learn how to improve or change or whatever the next logical step is for you. And so apply all the learning and validation you've gathered so far to execute on these improvements for the purpose of getting the result for its own sake, but also for gathering the data. Now, the fourth of these might seem silly, it might seem redundant, but it's actually pretty important. The fourth makes it into a continuous process rather than a linear process which just ends. And that is repeat. Go back to the beginning. Then do your learn, your validate, and your do. And you do this forever, which is the whole point of making it continuous improvement. So I'm going to put a recommended playlist. I think it'll go about right there, and it will be my playlist of continuous improvement. So if there was any value you got out of this, if you have any questions or anything, I would love to hear from you. You can like, share, subscribe, or ask a question, reach out to me, whatever. I would love to hear from you, both praise and criticism, because I am always trying to improve myself, my process, and your lives. So this has been Crush It Club 182, 4 words away from continuous improvement. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.